Well, hey, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Stephen Bjorlin, and I'm privileged to serve as the lead pastor at Portland Covenant Church. And this whole week and the last few days, I've been talking to a lot of people and checking in on them to see how they're doing. And everyone I talk to, no matter who I talk to, they're dealing with a just heightened level of stress, a heightened level of anxiety, and it can be for all kinds of reasons. Some people have lost their jobs. Some people are trying to figure out how to watch their kids all day. Some people are trying to get themselves some toilet paper. Amen. But all of us, it doesn't matter who, no matter who you are, we're all dealing with different levels, heightened levels of stress and anxiety. And so
Mhm.
today we wanted to do a conversation for all of us about how do we maintain our mental health in the midst of the coronavirus? How do we stay whole? How do we stay healthy? What does that look like in the midst of all this stress? And to have that conversation, I brought on one of my good friends, Dr. Amber Nelson. Dr. Amber Nelson, do you want to just give a quick introduction of who you are and why you might have some expertise on this subject matter?
Absolutely. So, Amber Nelson, I'm a clinical psychologist at George Fox University. I'm a assistant professor there. So, yeah, my area of expertise is in clinical psychology and just helping people with stress and coping overall.
Yeah, and we worked with Dr. Amber at my church in the past. We've done panels, and she's preached at my church before. And I can tell you from my personal experience, she's the real deal. And so we're just going to get straight to it. I just have some specific questions for you, Dr. Anderson, or Dr. Nelson, sorry, and and we'll just go with the flow here. So
Sounds
my
good.
first question would be this: what would you say to anyone out there who's just dealing right now with a greater level of stress, a greater level of anxiety, and they're just not sure what to do?
Yeah. Um, First of all, you're not alone, right? The biggest thing is that we're all in this together. I think, just as you were saying, Stephen, that we are all having kind of this heightened level of anxiety and stress. Just knowing that there's a lot of unknown. And we as people just don't really do well with ambiguity and the unknown. We like to control things, and when there are questions that can't be answered, we have a really hard time with that. And so I think the first thing is to know that you're not alone. But I would say that one of the biggest things that you can do is to redirect your attention and not to focus all your attention on the worry and the fear. Because the more that we focus our attention on the worry and the fear, it clouds our judgment. If this is the worry and the fear and we have it right here, we can't see beyond that. That's all that we're seeing, and it consumes our time and our mind and our energy. And so what we can do is not necessarily say don't think about this, because the more we say don't think about it, right? Don't think about a pink elephant, all of a sudden you start thinking about a pink elephant,
Right,
right?
right.
Not to tell yourself don't think about it, but just kind of allowing yourself to acknowledge, yes, there is some fear, yes, there is some worry, and I'm going to add to that and say I can do something else. What can I redirect my attention and my energy to, that's something that's a little bit more helpful for me right now?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah. No, don't focus so much on the fear and the worry, and saying like, yes, I feel this. Yes, I'm experiencing this, and I'm going to do something that's going to be helpful for me right
Yeah. I like that that topic of control,
now.
because I think for most of us, when it comes down to it, that's what is causing all the stress, right? I don't have control of my finances right now. I don't have control of my relationships. I don't have control of anything.
Yeah.
And so what do you think? You talk about not putting the coronavirus, not putting all the stuff we can't control in front of us, right?
Mhm.
So what would you recommend people redirect their attention to?
Yeah. I think honestly, simple things like, what are your daily routines? Kind of redirecting yourself to managing what you can control, right? What is within your control is what you do with your time, how you're managing your day, which can be hard in this time where we're supposed to be staying home and not going out and doing a lot. But really, I'd recommend that you create a routine. Try to manage and maintain a routine that you normally have, just amending it some, right? And focusing it on those things. I can still control what I'm eating. I can still control what I'm doing. I can still control, how I'm engaging with people, and
Mhm.
redirecting it to those things, and to things that you really do enjoy, things that you enjoy that maybe have to be amended some, right? They have to be shifted and tweaked, not exactly the way that you're used to enjoying them, but really directing your attention to those things, rather than on this abstract fear and worry.
Yeah, I think in the midst of that, I think about this idea of the small things,
Mm.
right? Because
Yeah,
I think a lot of times when we're feeling out of control, we focus on the big thing, right? The
absolutely.
world and everybody's health, and really, what we need to focus in is on the small things. What
Absolutely.
am I eating for breakfast today?
Absolutely.
Am
Yeah.
I eating breakfast, right?
Exactly.
Uh,
Yes.
what am I doing for fun today? How am I
Exactly.
getting exercise today, right? That if we focus in on that, and I love that idea of routine,
Mhm.
because routine is so important, not just for us as adults, but for those of us with kids,
Right.
right? Making sure there's some sort of schedule, and it can be
Absolutely.
loose, but that there
Yep.
is some sort of routine in your life, especially for those of us who have lost our jobs, and
Absolutely.
are sitting at home and don't really have much to do. So, the big thing I'm hearing from you right there is routine, and I'm
Absolutely.
hearing focus in on the small things. Um,
Absolutely.
what do you think, when we focus in on the small things and routine, what are some things we should be doing during this time? Like that will definitely help our mental health.
Yeah. So I have this thing called my 5 finger rule. I work primarily with, I'm a pediatric psychologist. So I work with a lot of kids and families. And so I do a lot of acronyms and easy ways to remember things. So my 5 finger rule, and they're mostly lifestyle strategies, right? And so the number one is, I think of activity. My number one, because it's like sports, like a foam finger, right? So number one is activity, right? So maintaining doing something that's your exercise, and there's all sorts of really great things right now that are popping up. There are free Zoom classes, and whether that's Zumba or yoga, or there's some apps that are now offering their premium offerings for free, which is really, really great. There's so many. I think that our global community is really starting to um, rally around each other in that way by offering free classes and things like that. So I definitely
So,
recommend looking
so
into
when you
that.
say activity, you're referring to physical activity,
Physical activity.
exercise.
Yep,
Yeah.
exercise. Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, there's also just fun activity too,
Yeah.
absolutely, which is super, super important. So
Yeah.
when we think about social distancing, we tend to go to like quarantine and social isolation, and it shouldn't really be called social distancing. It should be called physical distancing,
Yeah.
and that's what we're wanting. We need to have a good physical distance from each other, so that we're not kind of transmitting any physical germs, right?
Yep.
But not social distancing. So we live in such an age that we are incredibly blessed with the technology that we have just access at our fingertips.
Mhm.
Most phones have the capability for video conferencing, FaceTime, and things like that. There's Skype, there's Zoom, there's Google Hangouts. There's all of these technologies on all those stuff that are free for us to be
Yeah.
using. And I also acknowledge and recognize that not everybody has access to that, and so that can be really difficult. But I recommend that those that do have access to it, to use it and to get really, really creative on how you can be social with your friends and your family in this way, because we are social people and we need to have some sense of connection with one another.
Yeah.
There's even things like Netflix has, it's like Netflix Hangout or Netflix Share, something like that, where
Party.
you,
Yeah, yeah.
Netflix Party, that's what it is. Yeah, where you can play and watch a movie together so that it's synchronized. Different things like that. Definitely recommend that you do some things where you are socially connecting with one another, as well as doing things that are physically active.
Okay. So number one's activity.
Activity,
Active.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So number two, it makes a V. So I think of fruits and vegetables. So eating well, right? So
Eating well. Yeah.
eating well, yeah.
Talk about that.
It's easy for us when all of a sudden we're home
Yeah.
and we think that we're on break, right? And so we
Right.
kind of switch into like vacation mode.
Mm.
And when we get into, a lot of us, I'll speak for myself, but
Yeah.
when I get in vacation mode, I snack and I eat and I want to have fun, and I'm not really thinking about what I normally am eating.
Mhm.
We're also kind of in this place where people are, um, tend to overbuy right now because we're wanting to have lots of things in the house in case there's an emergency. And because there's more things in the house, we have a higher tendency or a higher likelihood of eating more. And
Yeah.
so I'm not saying don't eat more, but I'm saying be careful and be mindful that you're also making sure that you're eating your vegetables, that you're eating
Yeah.
3 times a day, that you're eating well and not getting off track, just because you're kind of contained within your walls.
Yeah, that's good. As a pastor, I deal with stress management and self care all the time. And one of my rules for myself is when I'm dealing with a lot of stress, like right now, is I try to push myself to actually eat healthier than I
Yes.
normally would,
Yeah.
simply
Absolutely.
because I know I'm like, I want some cake.
Right.
Like
Right.
that's just where I'm
Exactly.
gonna go, right?
Exactly.
And so that's really good. So active, right? Eating healthy.
Yep. The third one makes a W in sign language, which is water. So we really need to be hydrating. Hydration and healthy eating are so important for our body, but not only for our physical health, but our mental health.
Yeah.
The hydration really helps our cognitive processes. And when we become dehydrated and we're not drinking water specifically, not just soda or teas or things like that. Teas and caffeines and things like that can be really dehydrating for our body.
Mhm.
And so we need to be hydrating so that we can be our healthiest self. And right now that we need to also help that with for our immune system. There's so many benefits for hydration. It also helps with pain management, like headaches and things like that. And again, when you have lost maybe some aspects of your daily life, you want to try and maintain your physical health as much as possible, because those things can really shift and start to impact your mental health as well.
All right. So we got water,
Mhm.
eat right,
Yep.
active. What else?
Yes. All right. The fourth one is the last finger, which is the last thing that you do at the end of the day, which is sleep. So you also want to maintain good sleep. So keeping a good schedule. Again, we're talking about schedule right now.
Mhm.
So maintaining good sleep patterns and not getting off on that. Again, when we get in vacation mode, it can be really easy, and I'm the first one to admit that this is for me as well, whether that's sleeping in or staying up later than usual, things like that, that then it can really mess with our circadian rhythms. It can mess with our energy levels. Sometimes we feel like if we sleep in, or we can catch up, but our bodies don't really catch up on sleep. So it's better for us to maintain good sleep schedules so that we again, so that our cognitive processes are where they need to be, that our body is how it's supposed to be, and that we're feeling good. When we can get up, we can maintain a routine, and we're up and moving throughout the day, we actually feel better. We physically feel better. We mentally feel better. One of the things that happens with things like depression, is that we tend to sleep and we get really fatigued and we want to stay in bed. And one of the very first things that we recommend is what we call behavioral activation, which is getting yourself up, getting yourself moving, and getting yourself out of bed. And so, even though you're in the confines of your home, maintaining really, really good sleep and not oversleeping is going to be
Yeah.
key.
Yeah, and I could see, for so many people, especially those who lost their jobs or those who just maybe can work from home right now, it's like, well, I'm watching Netflix. I'll just keep on watching Netflix, right?
Right,
It's 2 in the morning,
right,
3 in the morning, whatever. I don't got any reason. Then they wake up and the
right.
next day they're just feeling out of it.
Exactly.
And for many people, your body's not even going to let you sleep in that much, right?
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
that's a really good reminder to sleep.
yeah.
All right, what's the last one you got for us?
And the last one is a thumb, and I usually say thumbs up thoughts. And thumbs up
Right.
thoughts is really just coming back to um, redirecting our
Yeah,
attention and being mindful of where is our mind right now. Because again, when we are focusing on the things that aren't helpful, if we're focused on just the Netflix and pushing the "Are you still watching?" Yeah, I'm still watching. Pushing the button, or we're focusing on these other things that can also mess up our routine, that can
yeah,
also it really impacts our physical and mental health. And so really attending to our mind, and what's going to feed our cognitive side, whether that's the social activity, whether that's learning something new, which is a really great thing to do right now, is to use this time to say, I'm going to learn something that I've always wanted to do. I have a friend that started learning how to juggle. I had a friend I have a ukulele that I've been meaning to learn how to play, and now I
yeah.
have the time to work on that, different things like that. Or if you wanted to have another friend that's working on doing the splits, things, whatever it might be, whatever it is that
Well,
whatever it is that
yeah, yeah.
you're interested in or you've always wanted to do, really kind of redirect your mind and your attention to that, and make it part of your routine.
Yeah, I wonder, when with you telling us all these things we should do, right? These are all great things. I wonder if there are some things that people are doing that they should not be doing. So now we got a list of things we should be doing. What are some things that are just practical things? Do not do this during the coronavirus, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's all the things that CDC and everybody's
Right.
telling us. Of course, stop touching your face and putting your
Yeah.
hands in your mouth, those kinds of things, all those practical things. But I do think that, which we've kind of touched on, but the biggest thing is to not panic. Really, that we have to really, again, be mindful of not, again, acknowledging the stress, the anxiety, the fear. It's natural, it's normal, you're not alone.
Yeah.
And not to allow that meter to fall into panic.
Yeah.
Because when we fall into panic, then um we lose our ability to kind of maintain function and to
Mhm.
continue to move through our day, and to do the things that we need to do to care for ourselves. And then that panic actually puts us in more danger.
Yeah.
It puts us in both physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, in all the places. And so I think that the biggest thing is to not panic, to not
Yeah.
panic, and to move towards one step at a time, rather than, again, focusing on this big ambiguous thing.
Yeah, I think when I think about this redirecting, focusing on the small things, I think one of the things I've been talking to people about is stop watching the news,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
That
yeah,
is constantly redirecting yourself to
yep,
bigger things than you can
yep,
even handle, right?
yeah,
Especially those who maybe watch cable news, right? Where
right,
the whole
yes,
idea is to scare you, to keep you
yes,
watching, to give them
yep,
money, right?
yeah,
So I've been telling people, do not watch the news. You can stay informed, right? Maybe in
right,
the morning once, check
yep,
the news. That's what I do.
yep,
But then the rest of the day, I don't need to hear the news multiple times
yes,
a day,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
The other thing
Turn
is
your
watch
alerts off.
huh?
Turn your alerts off on your
Yes, turn
phone.
your alerts
Yep,
off.
and make it part, like you said, making it part of your routine. Like, I can check the news once at whatever time of the day you want to do that. You schedule it as part of your day, and then turn your alerts off.
Yeah, and I think what would you say about social media in that realm too?
The same thing. Social media is a hotbed for misinformation. um and so we have to be really careful with that too. So if in particular, if you are somebody that is in that worry spectrum, and that anytime that you see new news or things like that, you want to be cautious of that when you are on social media. If you see something that looks news related, scroll past it. Try to try to avoid those things. And again, reminding yourself that things that are posted on social media often are um, they're created to be clickbait, right? They're created to not necessarily even get you to read the entire article, but just to read the headline and to take and extrapolate that as truth, as the whole meaning of what's been said. And that just it does more to again misinform us as a public,
Yeah.
as well as create more fear and anxiety. And so we just have to be really mindful and try to avoid those things when you are. I'm not going to tell you not to get on social media, because again, right now I think that that's a one place that people are connecting. But I'd say that if you were going to do social media and that's something that is a trigger for you, or something that is difficult for you, that you maybe even are mindful about, or intentional, I'd say, with who you're connecting with online, and saying like, hey, I want to chat with you, can we chat at this time? And just being really intentional one-on-one, rather than just going on and scrolling.
Yeah, that's good. I like this. Yeah, this idea of misinformation. I think every one of us during this time has talked to someone who's like, my friend knows somebody who works in the CIA, and you're like,
Right,
do you?
right. Really?
And people texting me random worries about, I heard this, I heard that. I'm like,
Right,
where are you hearing this? Right, crazy
right,
stuff.
right.
There's enough craziness going on already.
There's
You
enough. We
don't
don't
have
need
to
to add
flood your
to.
mind with other stuff that might
Right,
happen, right?
right, exactly, exactly.
Especially when it's not true.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's good. And then I have one question. I wonder, for those who are parents and they have kids at home. Obviously, the schedule thing is going to be super important.
Huge.
Do you have any specific things for parents who are trying to maintain themselves and some kids?
Yeah, yes, the schedule is going to be huge, but also um setting expectations with your kids too. Setting expectations of what your time is going to be, that you also have to have your time. And that's not always easy to create when you have one multiple kids, let alone even just one kid running around, and that are now in your space and in your time that you haven't necessarily been having to schedule for, right? This is all new for all of us. And so but setting expectations that like, this is mommy's time, or this is daddy's time, or this is whatever, that you actually have time that is yours,
Yeah,
and that your kids are doing something separate, even if it's for a little bit of time, that you have to be able to have some of that time. If you have a partner, like having one of you stay with the kids and you going outside and taking a walk. That's the other thing, is make sure that we're getting outside. And if you live in the Pacific Northwest, like, it's beautiful outside, we have all these hikes, all the stuff, like, we can go outside. And I recommend and encourage us to get outside, get some vitamin D from the sun, get some fresh air. So even if that's, going out, and your time as a parent is walking the dog, or just going for a walk, or stepping outside for a little bit, whatever that is, make sure that you are taking time for yourself as a parent, setting those expectations with your kids and maintaining good schedule. But also using this time to be really creative and create memories with your kids. That this is probably the only time that you're going to have this much, unless you're somebody that already has, that's homeschooling or
yeah,
things like that already. This is a time that, while scary, we can capitalize, or just really use it to our benefit, and to how can we take this time and use it to create really unique and fun memories with our kids. And again, whether that's the pillow forts and or blanket forts with your kids and doing reading times in there,
Mm.
or whatever that might be, that you create some really fun and unique memories with them. um, and then I also say that you it's also really important. The other two things is to listen to them, because it can also be really hard if you're also trying to work and they're in your space and around, and mommy, 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 and they're right there.
Yeah.
um, that we stop and try to attend to them, and to listen and take the time to also attend to that, because they're wanting your attention, and we want to make sure that, again, with those expectations, but that we're listening. And then the other piece is, to be honest, and that if they might be scared and they don't understand what's happening either, that it's really important for parents to really be honest with them in a developmentally appropriate way, right? We're not have to go through all of the details of all of the things. Sorry, my dog is
No problem.
barking. That they might not be able to understand the full extent, but that you need to be able to share some of that information with them in a way that they can understand, so that they can have a handle on this. Because for kids, so much is out of their control. Are you coughing, buddy? So much is out of their control, and so giving them some information so that they can have some sense and handle on what's going on for them too.
You got a friend. What's your dog's name?
His name is Kanye.
Kanye. All right, Kanye.
Yeah. Hi, buddy. Oh, hi.
Well, I got one more question I wanted to ask, and that's, I think all of us when we're talking to people, we have friends, we have family, and they're all handling this so in different ways, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have friends who are like, it's party time, they're at home, they're doing puzzles, they're like, life is fun. I have friends who are just distraught, right? They're crying and they're getting mad and they're worried, and I think it's a lot to hold your own stuff, but
Absolutely.
also the question is like, how do we befriend or be a good friend to those who maybe are reacting in ways that are different from us? And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that could be that we ourselves are stressed and we're like, why aren't they stressed, right? Or it could be that we're not stressed and our friend is bawling and we're like, well, I don't know what to say, So what do
Right.
you say to those of us who are trying to just be a good friend in this time to others?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is just to listen and sit and be um empathetic to whatever it is that they're coming to you with. If they're in a place where they don't have a care in the world and they're doing their thing, as a friend, even if you're stressed, that if you're the one that is stressed, that you voice your needs too,
Yeah,
right? Like, man, I'm glad that you are living your best your best quarantine life.
yeah,
um but I am freaking out
yeah.
and I could really use some help. And I think that that's one of the biggest things as your friends, like, we care about each other and we want to be there for each other, even in the midst of, especially in the midst of all of this.
Yeah.
And so one of your biggest things is that to be to be really honest about what your needs are,
Yeah.
right? So if you are stressed, letting your friends know that you're feeling stressed out. And if your friends are the ones that are stressed, that even if you don't know what to say, you don't know what to do, that you are honest and you say, man, I wish there was a way that I could take this from you
Mm,
and know that I love you and that I'm here for you and I can always sit and listen.
mm,
And if you could just sit and listen and reflect and be honest with them, come here, Con, that can be better than just about anything else, is
mm.
if you can just sit and listen, and validate how they're feeling and not try to fix. That's one of the biggest things, is that oftentimes what happens is that people, when you don't know what to say or do, how to change a situation, you try to fix it. and you try to jump in. Well, have you tried this? Have you done this? Have you done
Uh,
this? Have you done this? And instead of doing that, just sitting and listening and validating and saying, man, I hear you. I hear you.
yeah, I think that's so good. The validation is so necessary.
Yeah.
And I think, even when we're trying to be good friends, sometimes we give advice, and the reality is they don't need it. They don't need your
Absolutely.
advice. They
Yeah.
don't need your
Yeah.
help. They
Yep.
just need you to listen and validate what they're going through.
Absolutely.
Um, so that's really helpful advice. That's all I got for us today. Dr. Amber Nelson, I am so grateful that you joined me
Yeah.
today. If you are out there and you're looking to find support during this time, I want to personally invite you to join us at Portland Covenant Church. We meet virtually via Zoom for Sunday worship at 10 a.m. And if you want to find out more about that, you can visit portlandcov.org, portlandcov.org. We are praying you all stay safe and maintain your mental health. Amen. God bless.